Hey folks, Plain Jane here, and I am a lifelong reader, and I've learned so much from books, and books that most people don't consider are going to be good life lesson books, good money lesson books. I pick up little things from everywhere. I think that that's what really helped me quit my job at 45, become work optional, hit the fire thing. And so today I want to share with you some learnings from Agatha Christie's A Holiday for Murder, which apparently was originally published as A Murder for Christmas. And this has the most horrible cover. So Simeon Lee is now an old man, and he made his fortune in diamonds in South Africa. He is established as having £2 million in 1938. Again, seriously wealthy person, but he is not killed for the money. I'd like to start off with Agatha talking about how money doesn't bring you happiness. And the fact that he has £2 million and all of this wealth is not making him happy now. He does not have a positive relationship with his family. He doesn't have his health. He lifted out a small chamois bag, leather bag, and opening it, let out a stream of uncut diamonds pass through his fingers. Well, my beauties, well, still the same, still my old friends. Those were the good days. Good days. They shan't carve you and cut you about, my friends. You shan't hang around the necks of women or sit on their fingers or hang on their ears. You're mine. My old friends. We know a thing or two, you and I. I'm old, they say, and ill, but I'm not done for. Lots of life in the old dog yet. And there's still some fun to be got out of life. Still some fun. And his idea of fun is taunting his children with the ways that they failed him, telling his kids who loved their mother that he didn't think very much of her, and just generally being anyways. So his happiness is running old diamonds through his hands. They're his, and making a mess out of Christmas for all of his family. But even though this book is mostly about how not to have a good relationship with your kids, there are still some little money timbits within it. So we've got his daughter-in-law. She went up to her own room and sat down in front of the desk. She let down the flap and rummaged in its various pigeonholes. Cascades of bills came tumbling out. Magdalene sorted through them, trying to arrange them in some kind of order. Finally, with an impatient sigh, she bundled them up and thrust them back whence they had come. She passed a hand over her smooth platinum head. What on earth am I to do? She murmured. So this woman has been spending well beyond her means. Her husband is not interested in giving her more money. She is scared of telling him about how much she spent because he is very frugal. And she's caught up in what on earth? And she's completely lost at this point. There's nothing to do. And this is a good reminder for everybody. First off, be in a relationship in which you can be honest with your partner. And secondly, don't end up with this number of bills that you can't cope with. And hiding them away in some pigeonholes isn't going to help her. She needs to organize and start creating a plan. Even though the solution to the novel and the mystery is all about blood and revenge, there are a number of financial red herrings in here. The first is that Simeon Lee's diamonds have gone missing and end up in one of the rock gardens nearby. Another is that as part of his joyful Christmas, he decides to put the wind up on his kids by letting them overhear that he's about to redo his will, which of course will make some of them feel much less secure in their financial future. And also he tells Magdalene and her husband that he's planning to cut back on their allowance. It's interesting to me that Simeon Lee has been giving his kids this allowance, this economic outpatient care, given how little he thinks of them. I know it's common. I've got other people who I've worked with in the past whose parents did this for them, and I don't think that was really good for them as feeling like competent adults, that they were reliant on their parents in that way. One of the people that Simeon Lee has invited home for Christmas is his niece Pilar, and nobody has met Pilar before because Pilar's mother, Jennifer, Simeon's daughter, had run off to Spain and had her kid there. And so this woman comes from Spain, 1938, so this is in the midst of quite a bit of conflict in Spain, and she has gone to England. And after Simeon passes away, after he is murdered, then it is discovered that Pilar is not actually Pilar, that in fact she was one of Pilar's traveling companions. Pilar was killed in a bomb, and her traveling companion decided to impersonate her in England. And when she's discovered, she says, if that old man had lived, he would have made another will. He would have left money to me, a lot of money. And perhaps in time, he would have left me all the money. Stephen said, smiling, that wouldn't have been very fair either, would it? Why not? He would have liked me best, that is all. Stephen said, what a greedy child you are, a real little gold digger. Pilar said soberly, the world is very cruel to women. They must do what they can for themselves while they are young. When they are old and ugly, no one will help them. And this is actually like what comes down to what started me along the path to fire, was looking around in my industry and seeing that there were very few women over 50 who were still employed. And the ones who got let go in their late 40s, they were having a really hard time finding a new role that fit them. And I didn't want to be like that. I have since realized that like some of those women were not keeping their skills and their network up to date, and that's why they weren't able to find new jobs. But that was my initial like push towards making sure that I had my house paid off by 40. That's what had me initially make my first plan to be financially independent by 50. And I beat that goal. I made it by 45. But like with the help of the market, that was like only partially me. And I probably shouldn't have paid off the house first. But it was that precise realization that the world isn't kind to older women, especially older women in tech, that made me get on the path to fire. And it's funny because I thought that like I had noticed it on my own, and then I reread this book and it's like, oh, it was right there. I was taking that on board as a teenager. Anyways, I've been thinking a bunch about why we don't judge Pilar more for her actions, and I think it's because when the will reveals that she doesn't get her mother's share, that the rest of the kids, except for one, are willing to make up that share so that she gets what she deserves, she says no. She isn't willing to take the money under completely false pretenses. She only wants the money if she's gotten it through her own work, through her own especial joie de vivre. So I think that that's why we like her, is that like she's a gold digger, but she's got her own sense of ethics. Always interesting little bits in Agatha's books about money, about life, about the historical things that were happening at the time. Like this little bit like about the Spanish Civil War right in the midst of it, just to give the whole thing a little bit of color instead of just being a standard English Christmas. I hope you stick around for more stuff from me. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye. Please note, this book is incredibly bad on the topic of genetics and heredity. Like, the Pilar is figured out because both of her parents have blue eyes and she doesn't, and so like that's how they know. The murderer is found out because he has the same habit of his dad of running his finger down his chin and throwing his head back when he laughs. And it's like, he's the illegitimate kid. He doesn't know his father. He didn't grow up seeing his father do that thing. So it's like, that wouldn't be hereditary of like these particular mannerisms, but that's how they like tell two of the illegitimate kids in this book, is like that they do this particular thing with their hand. Like, Agatha really messed up in terms of like genetics.